Hi there, and welcome back to the Energy Sector Heroes podcast. My name is Michelle Fraser, and every week I will speak with incredible people who share their lessons, experiences, and stories from their time spent in the energy sector. Hi there, and welcome back again to this week's episode. If you're new to the show, then please take a second to subscribe and even consider sharing the show with just one other person. This week I am joined by Fahad Haider. Fahad is a renewable energies consultant. Fahad, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for inviting me. Hey, everyone. This is Fahad Haider. I work here in Sydney, Australia as a renewable energy engineer and also as a consultant. And on this side, I have founded my own organization where we help developing communities with clean energy. So we've done all sorts of projects, mainly in the Pacific, Asia, and Africa region. Yeah, basically to promote SDG 7, the UN Sustainable Development Goal 7, which is clean and accessible energy for all. Yeah, so that would be my program.
That sounds excellent. So how did you get involved in the clean energy area?
So I grew up in Bangladesh, right? And Bangladesh has been like one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change. So, growing up, we would see the effects of climate change, like with the increasing frequencies and, worse effects of cyclones and floods and so on. And yeah, I have seen victims of various natural disasters. And, those kinds of things, it stays with you in terms of, we may not talk about let's say, some cyclone that went by. We may stop talking about it. However, the impact that it has on a family in terms of losing loved ones or losing property or and so on, that stays. So like looking at examples like this, it always stayed with me to try to contribute to fighting climate change and so on. So I was always interested in that. And then I remember like back in 2007, I went to an exchange program to the US, and then we were shown An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore, the documentary about climate change. So that really opened my eyes to it. And so from there, I was always into climate change and, trying to do what I can in terms of volunteering and activism and a few other like little projects here and there. Yeah, so that was climate change. And moving on, for my undergrad, I studied electronics engineering. However, I found myself not too, I didn't like it very much, especially when I started working in that field. Yeah, and in the back of my head, I was always keen on, helping people and contribute to mitigating climate change. I've already did this a few times. Yeah, and then I decided to leave my ongoing job and enroll in like Masters of Renewable Energy. So then this was from the University of New South Wales here in Sydney, and it's very happy that very lucky in the sense that the place I live in has one of the best universities in the world that taught to renewable energy. And so after that, I'm really happy with what I learned. And that was my introduction into the energy sector.
Okay, because I also have an electrical electronic engineering degree as well, so we're similar in that. So what made you go into renewable energy?
Mm, First of all, it would be like I was always interested in, technical side, be it, technical design, engineering, drawings and so on. So and the problem solving that comes with engineering, right? So that I always liked it, but again, like working in electronics, I used to work in production actually, and I didn't have much. I mean, the sense of purpose wasn't as much, it wasn't as fulfilling. At least with renewable energy, I know that whatever I do in terms of implementation or helping to implement more solar, for example, that is contributing in its very own way to mitigating climate change. Right. Yeah. So it was like this lack of fulfillment in other sectors that I found in renewable energy that, yeah, that I love. I really love working in renewable energy. I find myself really passionate about it. And yeah, I guess this was the main reason why I moved to it.
Okay. And did you find it easy to change industries from electrical over to renewable energies?
Interesting question. It was quite challenging for me, especially because I started my master's in 2018 and yeah, finished like end of 2019 or January 2020, basically. And then if you remember, March, we had COVID, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, and back then I was actually in Bangladesh visiting, right? And I pretty much got stuck there because with all the, lockdowns and ban in air travels and so on.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was quite challenging back then. Like, yeah, my parents live in Bangladesh. Yeah, so it was obviously very good staying with them, giving them time and helping them out in this, in that difficult period. However, in terms of career, yeah, that was quite challenging actually, because at first, I mean, it was pretty much challenging for everyone, more or less, but I feel it because of my limbo state in terms of, I just finished my studies and then I was at a prime point to look for a job, and at that time this happened. So yeah, it's fairly challenging, but yeah, staying in Bangladesh, I took like a few initiatives of my own. I started fundraising and installing solar in a few like rural, remote areas of Bangladesh. So we raised, I think, around, it was back in 2022. We raised over $5,500, and we installed like solar system, like hybrid with batteries, and we installed fans and lights, computer as well in a couple of schools for there. And that was like my introduction to the humanitarian side, pretty much. So yeah, it was like I didn't really know what to do in terms of, a corporate profession. However, at that time, I sort of started on working on my own initiatives to help out the underserved and so on. And yeah, and based on it, we were quite successful with those projects. Based on the impact, based on how much we actually impacted the students' lives, for example, in the schools. So yeah, after that, we've just been trying to do a few more projects. Yeah, on the humanitarian side.
That sounds amazing, actually. It does sound amazing. Do you have any more projects like that coming up?
Yeah, I mean, we are always talking to like organizations from the global south in terms of how we can collaborate. Yeah, I haven't charged like a penny for my services. So far we fundraised and installed solar. I have helped organizations in terms of, applying for tenders or applications for grants and so on. And I've also done like solar design for a school in Bangladesh, another like on-grid system. Yeah, so for all these, and oh yeah, my an important thing I'm focusing on is capacity building in renewable energy, more like training for people in the global south to understand the technical side a bit more. So yeah, these are the main projects we try to focus on, and we're always in talks. Yeah, so like just a few weeks ago, I was talking about a site in Somalia, but it's a bit tricky. It's a school in Somalia. However, it's a bit tricky because we need really like the partners who are on site, who are in Somalia themselves, for example, they're very important because they will find the sites themselves, and the reliability of the system that will be installed. It's all dependent on them, right? So yeah, from the latest discussions, I don't think that will go through Somalia. And then we had other discussions in other countries. So it's always ongoing. And yeah, that's we're still talking about that. But something else I wanted to focus on is that, my experiences in various countries. I've seen in my experiences in basically the global south that there is a distinct lack of skills on the technical side of renewable energy, right? So based on this, I have started providing my own free training sessions or capacity building sessions on renewable energy, more on the technical side. So we've done introduction to climate change and solar, for example, but we have also done like a training for technicians in Tonga for the Department of Energy. This was late last month. And so, yeah, the next session will be on the 2nd of May. So it's upcoming. So that's one of the projects, one of the sessions that we have coming up. And then for the other one, especially for solar installation, where we are still having talks about, finding the right sites and the right partner. Because what we do is we raise some money from here in Australia mainly, and then we send it over to them, be it in Papua New Guinea or Bangladesh or Somalia or Dominica and so on. And I also do the engineer, the design, send them the single line diagrams and so on, speak to the technicians there online, and then they install the system in those countries. There's no point for, let's say, me going all the way there, spending all this money, right? I'd rather, let's say, instead of spending $1,500 on my ticket, I'd rather send them the money and they can add a battery system or whatever, right? So yeah. So because of this, it becomes really important to have like reliable partner, no matter what part of the world we're in. I mentioned this already, didn't I? But yeah, that's why the fact that they do the purchasing of the products, they handle the finances, and they do the installations. That's why it's really important, and that's something that we have been struggling with, to be honest, in terms of just making sure, for example, yeah, there is accountability of the funds that have been transferred to them, for example, or yeah, and also like security of the solar system. Solar it's not cheap, is it? So especially in remote parts of the world, they have really good resale value. So just ensuring the security of our systems too. Yeah, I would say that I mean, I guess these are some of we may be having some more projects in terms of, solar and so on, but, these are the discussions that we've been having and hopefully some materialize.
Okay, but that sounds amazing. Actually, you sound like a pretty cool person. Actually, because that sounds amazing. Actually, so how do you go about fundraising for that?
So fundraising has been, look, I've been lucky, so I've been part of a few global fellowship projects. So, and they've been supported by World Bank and UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program. And there is also this really cool one called UPG, which is United People Global. And from these fellowships, I have been lucky to form like a global network of really passionate, really, really cool youth, basically, who are doing projects all over the world. And then from there, we've liaised with the youth who may basically focus on clean energy. And yeah, so just utilizing this network of mine, that is the main way of fundraising. Like, I raise funds, I make a page, let's say, and then I tell it to them that, okay, we're fundraising. If you could donate, please go ahead, please help us out. And then on the other hand, it also helps us find reliable partners outside that I've been mentioning in the previous part, right? So yeah, it's this global network that has been really helpful in raising funds and finding the right sites.
Okay, so you think that networking with all these partners is quite important then?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm really grateful to be part of those, global fellowship programs that have facilitated it, because they have provided training as well in terms of, doing our own projects and leadership skills and so on. But also they have provided us with like a really strong network of really talented people who want to work on sustainability or clean energy and so on. Right. So yeah, it has been crucial.
Okay, so how would you go about contacting them then? Do you reach out to them with a proposal of what you're wanting to do?
Okay, this it takes me back to like, I'll just give a little example of in one of the fellowships, we had to do like a project of our own, right? So I partnered up with this other other fellow from Austria, actually, and he was doing an exchange semester here in Australia, right? And then we collaborated, and that, yeah, that set us off on like starting a webinar series of our own where we discuss, climate projects and energy projects by youth leaders, right? So, yeah, so in this case, it was like contacting directly through the fellowship. And then we've been added to various forums and various WhatsApp groups, for example, and we have each other's contact details. So we reach each other out through there. So let's say there have been sessions where we also talked about what our strengths are, right? And then from there, other people have approached me and they're like, oh, yeah, I have a little solar business of my own. And then can you help me with like preparing a pitch? Like I'm trying to pitch to investors. So this was another example. And then, yeah, so, and there have been other cases as well. I'm just trying to think. Oh yeah, and the last way, the most recent would be like just through meeting up. So again, through these fellowships, they have taken us to different conferences or training sessions and so on. Like with UPG, they took us to Hurricane Island in America in August last year, and then I think it was like around 35 people from all over the world, and then yeah, we talked about our strengths, and then yep, liaised with some projects, including the one in Nigeria I just mentioned. And then earlier this year, I was chosen as an IRENA like youth delegate. So IRENA took us to Abu Dhabi in January to the youth forum as well as the General Assembly. And at the General Assembly, I met the director from the Department of Energy in Tonga. And then from there, Vinny, she has been amazing. And then we got to talking. And then from there, yeah, uh, I held my first training session with the technicians of the Department of Energy. And yep, so that, yeah, just meeting directly in person at the General Assembly led to the training sessions. So yeah, it's mostly like communicating, be it in person, via WhatsApp, by emails, or webinars or Zoom calls and so on.
But is it quite hard to get in contact with them? You would have to be persistent, wouldn't you?
Look, so, I mean, the fact that I don't really like for my organizational work, I don't really charge money,
Mm.
right? So it has been good in that sense. Like again, the goal is just helping implement more, like empower people with clean energy, with solar and so on, right? So this has been an incentive for people to reach out to me and so on. But in terms of sustainability for ourselves, right? I mean, in my organization, it's a bit tricky because I see that now that we're moving on to bigger projects, yeah, we need to come up with a proper solution of sorting out our finances. But yeah, so because of that, it has been relatively all right. And also, like there is, especially in clean energy, I'm sure you've noticed this as well, Michelle. Like there is, like in terms of people who actually do technical work, I wish there were more people like us, right? Who do this, solar design. They can take training sessions and actually tell the solar installer that, okay, this is how you should install it. This is the orientation of the panels. Just make sure there are no, you do the connections properly, make sure grounding is fine, and a few other things to keep in mind. So, yeah, there is quite a lack of technical people in our sector. So I feel the fact that I'm providing all this for free, there has been a fair bit of demand for it. However, there have been like challenges in terms of, again, we have had so many discussions with so many organizations, and yeah, for example, like with training sessions, we had like advanced discussions with one organization, and then later he was asking me, oh, can you pay us for giving some food and hiring projectors and so on for the session. So yeah, that was quite disappointing. But yeah. So it's been good and bad. There have been challenges. I mean, it is relatively small, and we have been targeting like grassroots organizations where you don't have to really hold huge sessions with where you need a lot of budget, for example, and all that. So yeah, so I feel those have really helped as well. And yeah,
I'm speechless actually, because I think that this is amazing what you're doing actually.
it's nah, we try, but yeah, it's just a bit challenging because again, work full time, right, which is in a completely different area of renewable energy. It's a startup, and then yeah, managing my full-time work and it's not been easy all the time, to be honest. Yeah, it's been rather challenging. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, I found myself really passionate about renewable energy, really passionate about empowering people with clean energy, which is, I guess, which is the fuel for me to keep doing this.
I do, and I hope you keep doing it for a very long time. You mentioned that you had challenges. What challenges do you see and run into?
For our case at the moment, the biggest challenge would be, just having discussions and then not having them go through because of yeah, issues that I feel could be resolved just a bit more cooperation. Like the one I mentioned, the one in Papua New Guinea, we were supposed to hold a training session. I actually like developed concept note for this organization for them, and it was fairly technical. And it was yeah, it was all good. And then from there, based on that, we were supposed to hold a training session. And then in the end, he backed out because he was asking me to pay him money to hold the training session for him so that he can, provide some food to the attendees and hire the projector and so on. So, and yeah, so these are, it's like, we're doing this to help people, but yeah, we need cooperation on the other side too, right? And then fundraising is not always easy, right? So, in terms of, like for us, the projects have been pretty small, right? So, and yeah, even with that, even like to raise the $5,500, I've had to. It was a completely new experience for me. It's quite interesting, but it is you have to be very persistent, and I'd rather spend my time, for example, on more the engineering side rather than having to worry about fundraising, right? Yeah, if that makes sense. I mean, so, because yeah, I'd rather like spend my time on like the site assessments, the feasibilities, and designing the system and so on, because those take a fair bit of time as well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just so yeah, like funding, fundraising, and like and the more we grow, I see that there is some demand for bigger projects in terms of bigger sizes, for solar systems or communities, for example. But then for those, you need to have a portfolio already. Let's say, for example, let's say your organization needs to be there for 5 years and has already done, I don't know, 5 projects or I don't know, $1 million in total and so on. So they have all these criteria, so based on where we are at the moment, it's a bit difficult to apply for grants as well. So yeah, I would say these would be some of the challenges.
That's what I was going to ask you next. Do you think that you would ever consider taking on a really big project?
Eventually, yes. For example, now what like for Eminate, for what we need to do is now we have to collaborate with other organizations and so on, and then together we try to implement those big projects, right? So for example, now there is the Australian government, they have a grant open called the Renew Pacific, which are like for off-grid renewable energy infrastructure projects in the Pacific. So for this, I have collaborated with my university. So there is a part at my university, and our professor, he used to be head of our school of renewable energy. Yeah, so he leads in implementation of off-grid solar in Vanuatu, right? So yeah, Eminate, we have been lucky to collaborate with them, with some other partners as well. And then together we are applying for this grant, and then hopefully we get it, and we can implement it. And the project itself would be it's changing, but for us, for Eminate, it will be big because I don't know how much I can say, but yeah, we are hoping to apply for, over $1 million of grant and with 4 or 5 partners. We're hoping the Department of Energy in Vanuatu will also be a partner and so on. So yeah, for Eminate, it's ourselves. We need to take it slow and collaborate with the bigger players until we build our own portfolio of big projects. And then hopefully we can apply on our own and take the initiative ourselves.
I think that is quite an amazing feat. That is really amazing. Are you quite, I was going to say, worried or apprehensive about taking on such a huge project by yourself?
Oh no, I make sure in whatever projects we apply for, we like emanate or we take the responsibility of the work that we are confident of delivering. So be it like for now, it's more like capacity building and training sessions. So based on my experiences so far and what I know, I'm fairly confident that, we can deliver. And then for other projects, it can be like design and so on too, like PV design. But for that, we can have other partners. We can get help as well. So yeah, as long as personally, I'm not that apprehensive, as long as, the scope of the project for, the deliverables for Eminate is something that we are really confident in delivering. And I'm pretty sure we won't be taking projects that we are not confident of delivering, right? So, yeah.
What I was going to ask you the next question was,
Hmm?
where do you get your confidence to do all this? Because a lot of people wouldn't.
That's an interesting question. I don't know. It's just something I've always been like this, I guess, like trying to take initiative and doing projects and like being very goal oriented. And I feel again like my passion really fuels me to take initiatives to do more because it's not, focusing on the end goal. All right, so we will help, let's say, 300 students in this school with solar. That I mean, that incentive of helping them, right? That for me, it's bigger than any sort of apprehension or fear or anything else that we might have. However, we definitely have to be pragmatic in terms of, okay, how do we go ahead with implementation? However, I feel just the with the end goal in sight and the fulfillment you feel in after implementing these projects, this would be the main driver for me to take up these projects and just go with it.
I think so. I think so. But then a lot of people have, there are, well, especially myself as well, they are goal orientated, but a lot of people don't come out their comfort zone. Have you found that really hard to do?
Yeah, Michelle, all right. So I will just I'll tell you the main reason why I founded M&A. This is why I do this. This is the main driver for it, right? This is what pushes me and to do this even though, I have another job and so on. It's not like I really need to be honest. But the thing is like, when I was stuck in Bangladesh during COVID, my mom had COVID in 2021 and I was very, very close with my mom and she passed away with COVID, in August. Right. And this was a huge shock. It was so hard. It was, I also still say the worst experience of my life. Yeah. But after that, I was still staying in Bangladesh, giving support to my dad. And then it's just something I had to do for mom's memory, for mom's legacy. So my organization name is EMIH, right? So mom's name was EMI, and that's the first 3 letters of my organization. So it's solely in her memory for her legacy. So this is why I founded this organization, and this is why I do projects to help the underserved. Yeah, with the hope that, it will go back to my mom and make her proud in a way. And yeah, just in her memory, in her legacy as well. So yeah, this is the main driver. This is this is the main reason I founded my organization. I do projects in the global south, right? So yeah, and when we have this in mind, when my motivator is this, mom's memory and in her name, and every time I see our logo, for example, I see EMI, right? It reminds me of mom. So yeah, that would be one of the reasons, like the main reason why I do this, and yeah, why I have decided to go along this route. And obviously the positive outcomes, the successes, I'll say up to an extent, they really help. They drive you forward. But yeah, I feel this is the biggest drive and the main reason why I do this. So yeah.
I'm really sorry to hear that you lost your mum, but I'm sure she's looking down and she's going to be immensely proud of you for doing all that. Because you've really taken
Thanks.
your COVID situation and made it into a huge success.
We try. Yeah, looking back, yeah, it wasn't easy, but yeah, it definitely made me a lot more resilient, a lot more. Yeah, when you go through those kinds of things, the other challenges of life don't seem as bad anymore, right? So they sort of, yeah, push you forward and yeah, make you stronger, I'll say, to take more on and do more. And yeah, just go ahead with your intention, with your correct intention of wanting to go do good.
I think so too, actually. I do think so too. So, do you have any advice for any younger graduates coming into the renewable energy space?
Oh, yes, definitely. The first thing would be I've already mentioned this, right? Just making sure we know the technical aspects well. It's not like we have to go really deep, on a really low level, but especially from a graduate perspective, if we know the basics, that will really help. So technical can be just in, the electrical side, the watts, kilowatts design, and so on. But nowadays in renewable energy, renewable energy itself has like so many other parts nowadays, right? For example, in terms of policy or a law, renewable energy law, or other things as well, even like art in renewable energy or art in climate, that's been upcoming. So no matter what part of renewable energy we pursue, is making sure we're good at it. And yeah, and understanding, oh yeah, and also like understanding the technical side in terms of just the basics of renewable energy, like let's say how does solar work, what is 1 watt or a kilowatt, and yeah, just a few other basic generic terms, or the the variability of wind and solar as energy sources. So, these are not highly technical, but just, some knowledge about this definitely helps. So yeah, that would be my first advice. Just knowing the technical side, no matter what part of renewable energy we pursue. And the other would be like, this is something I benefited myself immensely. That would be like taking your own initiative to do your own project. So be it, I don't know, like energy efficiency measures in your community. So making people more aware of, yeah, the inefficient air conditioning systems, or common household items that drain too much energy, or just awareness building in terms of, all right, don't put your TV on standby, and so on, right? And there can be other examples. It won't be like pertaining to renewable energy, but let's say even we've seen the youth who take up projects of planting trees, for example. So they take the initiative to do their own project, and from there they implement it, and then it gives them a sense of responsibility. They take ownership of the project, right? And then from there they do their best to make sure the project is a success and it stays a success. So just planting the trees is not enough. We see them like go back to the site and make sure they're watering the plants and taking correct care of it, just making sure, they don't die out. So it's a long-term project, yeah, that they try to ensure is successful. So this builds a lot of ownership that is crucial for success in any sector, I'll say. But again, we need really good people, really passionate, people in our sector, right? So yeah, when we do such projects of our own and build that ownership or the sense of responsibility for our work, it will definitely be transferred to the other projects we do in the energy space. Yeah, so those would be my advice.
And that sounds amazing advice as well. That's all the questions I have for today. I would like to thank you for your time. That brings us to the end of another episode. Thanks for listening and see you next week. That brings us to the end of another episode. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, I'd like to gently encourage you to leave a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts and share the show with another person. You can also follow me on LinkedIn or via my website, www.michellefraserconsultancy.com. Thanks again for listening and see you next week.